Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, or this week, we wanted to talk about all of the things in life that you could do instead of starting a side hustle. Because there is a lot of pressure, I think, especially with the rise of online businesses, content creation, making money online as a whole. There is more pressure to almost side hustle, but that's also hand in hand with the fact that for anyone in their 20s or 30s, we are the generation with the most amount of expenses and the least amount of money in the bank, earning power, all of these things. The system is, I don't want to say stacked against us because that's a hugely negative statement, but I do feel like we have more speed bumps. Is that a nice way of putting it? I don't know. Speed bumps to being able to actually own a home, for example, build up healthy savings, leave our jobs to go traveling. Getting a pet and having a child are much more weighted, difficult decisions for us to make. So therefore, it can feel like there is more pressure to do more than just your 9-to-5 job to try and just keep your head afloat sometimes. But given this, I am of the opinion that the things we're going to talk about this episode, if you do these things or if you pursue things outside of strictly trying to make more money, it will give you more sense of purpose and help you feel happier in your own life so that you don't feel like you need a side hustle that generates more money to do that. Because I think it all goes back to when people say, does money buy happiness? No, money buys time with your loved ones, time for yourself, peace of mind. That's what money buys. But I actually think you can, quote unquote, buy those things through investing your time sometimes as well. And you don't necessarily need money to buy those things at a smaller scale. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit because since leaving my job, I've had more time for myself. I'm sure you've had too, Farah. And I was wondering, what are the ways you spent your time? Because I know you've done a few things for yourself and you've tried different hobbies, especially since leaving a 9-to-5. But also while you had a 9-to-5, I want to talk about that as well. But I've definitely put more intentional time into fitness related things, walking, reading, being more creative with my camera and videography and making videos, actually taking time to practice my creativity in a way as well. That isn't just, I need to get this video done so I can send it to a brand and, 1 + 2 = money kind of thing. I wanted to talk about that and how it makes you feel and whether you feel it's a valid replacement for another side hustle that you could have done with the time maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, so I don't think it's a replacement because at the same time, hobbies cost money.
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
them.
true.
So I have to still factor in money and affordability into me wanting to do a hobby because there's things I've really wanted to try more recently that I still have to think about, okay, is this in the budget? Because I can't just go and do a hobby if I don't have the money for it a lot of the time, depending on what you want to do. There's obviously free things to an extent. I feel like everything costs money. Even if I say free, I still have to order, I don't know, a paint pot from Amazon if I want to start painting, So I would never say they're a substitute for one or the other. And I would always advocate for people to have a side hustle. You can't really afford that much for the lifestyle these days. A lot of households need 2 incomes to stay afloat compared to traditionally when they only needed one. And even with the experience that I've had working in corporate, and I know that you chose to leave, but I think if you don't have something to back yourself up, that's also a sticky situation that you're leaving yourself in when you don't have a side hustle or something that you're passionate about on the side that you could potentially make money from. Not that you have to make money from it right here, right now, but just having an idea of something that you could be doing outside of your 9-to-5. But having said that, I still think it's good to make time for the hobbies separately. So I wouldn't exchange one for the other. I would say as much as you can, broaden yourself up so that you do still have a passion project that you could potentially make money from if anything happened with your job, because I don't think it's the smartest thing in this day and age to rely on one income source, and I would never advise anyone to do that these days. But then also, I think if you're constantly in this space where everything you do is money oriented and you've got the side hustle, you've got a full-time job and everything's just generating money, you should feel like you can spend that money on enjoyment and giving back to yourself. And I think that's what you do in the form of a hobby. And that's definitely what I started to do a lot more last year, especially with having the extra time now that I wasn't constrained to the 9 to 5 working, or it was beyond 9 to 5. But when I had that extra time in the day and I could be more flexible with my time and my schedule of the day, I would be booking paddle sessions. I started doing that a lot more regularly during the summer with my husband, which was really fun to do. And it's not something that I ever probably would have done if I was working in corporate, or if I was in that mindset that I used to be in, where everything I had to do was make money. But obviously things like that cost, which is why I wanted to bring up, I still think side hustles and things are important so that you can still fund your fun time and the time that you make for yourself. But then, as I was saying, there's so many things that I really want to start doing more of. For the longest time, and this is something I did when I was younger, I started learning to play piano. I even had a little keyboard in my bedroom at one point. Growing up, I would have this keyboard. It wasn't even little, it was quite big. It would take up half my room, and I could never play with two hands very confidently. I could only do tunes with one hand. And I remember I did piano lessons for a period of time when I was younger, and I tried to get back into it, but it's one of those things that, because you don't need to do it, you just don't end up doing it. And I really want to get rid of that mindset of, because I don't really need to do it, it's not serving a purpose, as in it's not what I need to survive. Again, coming back to that, if that was making me money, then yeah, I'd probably find a need and a want to do it more, and that motivation. But I'm really trying to shift my mindset towards not just doing things because I have to, or I feel like I need them in my life, but I can invite more wants into my life now. And I feel like I'm in a place where I'm a lot more accepting of just doing things because they feel good, and just doing things because I enjoy them, not because they are paying my bills, and not because it's something that, you know, someone's going to be proud of me for. It's just something that I genuinely want to do. So that's one of them, which I haven't jumped onto just yet, because again, I would need the equipment for that to practice at home, and that's just a whole extra thing to think about. But it's been in the back of my mind for such a long time. I just really want to learn how to play piano so bad. And one day I had the dream that I'm going to have an actual grand piano in my house. One day that's going to happen.
Wow. Oh my God. And also, this is a complete tangent, but also that's going to just look so nice with what you've described to me about how you want to decorate your like future home as well. I just feel like that's going to be so like majestic.
I need a big fat house for that, but one day it'll come.
But I love that though. I think you mentioned just at the beginning there, you said, oh yeah, hobbies cost money and you have to think about whether they fit in your budget. Do you budget for hobbies?
I didn't used to have any hobbies, but now that I'm actually trying to implement them, yeah, I'm beginning to. I literally had a little time block on my calendar scheduled for my personal budget, because I think in my era of life now that I literally work for myself, I'm trying to manage my money in a whole different way. So my personal budget is now a bit different to how I would have done it if I was in corporate still and working my 9 to 5, because everything would have been personal back then, the money that I was earning and stuff. So yeah, I have started to factor that in now, because it's genuinely something that I want to be able to be consistent in. I don't want it to be something that I'm just try for a little bit and then I fall out of it because, it's becoming a bit too expensive or I haven't accounted for it properly. I want to make these things consistent in my routine and more like habits, because I just think it's so important for your brain to constantly be learning new things. And I think it has more benefits than we actually realize, and I think it's a bit underrated sometimes to think of hobbies as things that are developing you as a person. So I want to make sure that it's something that's accounted for in the same way that I would account for my investments and my savings, if that makes sense. I want it to be part of my plan, where even self-care and things like that, I'm actually plugging those into my personal budget, because I want it to become a routine where I know I'm comfortable spending that money and I don't have to feel guilty for it later because it's not accounted for and it's something that, I've spent more than I thought I would. So I'm trying to put that pre-planning in advance to be like, okay, if I want to take lessons, this is how much it would cost, and then this is how much I have aside to take care of those extra costs. So that's how I'm trying to approach it. But I think that is very much because of how I get my income these days as well, because it's a bit different to getting a salary like I used to.
Yeah, and definitely, and I think I am such a stan of hobbies to help you build a mindset that earns you way more money over your life as well, because really, if you think about it, hobbies that have nothing to do with earning money, and like true hobbies in terms of learning to play an instrument, learning a new language, learning anything, like a new skill. That's what a hobby is really. It's investing time into learning a new skill that isn't directly correlated to an income. Those things teach you really fundamental life skills like delayed gratification, the power of consistency and discipline. The same things that come up from those hobbies are the things that make you more wealthy as a person, because if you really understand and embody the principle of delayed gratification, for example, you'd be a better investor. You'd be able to understand that you can ride out any highs and lows of the market to keep your money invested. You have that skill. I do think it is a skill because it's something you get better at over time, because when you learn more about it, you're able to actually practice it. Investing is just something you do to grow your wealth and manage your money better. But how you develop those skills is through hobbies. And hobbies, what they also give you is a sense of purpose that actually on purpose isn't linked to earning money through your 9 to 5. And I've read studies about how people who have more hobbies that have nothing to do with their day job or the skills that they practice in their day job are actually happier, because they don't rely on their job or the validation that their job gives them on overall validation that they receive in life. They know that, oh, if my job changes or if something bad happens at work, I still have all of these other things that give me a sense of feeling good about myself and that give me these other skills that I'm good at that don't necessarily correlate to my job. And having that overall holistic sense of purpose and happiness also makes you a richer and wealthier person, because again, you're not tied to one thing. You're less likely to sabotage yourself. You're more likely to be a confident person, therefore maybe actually go after salary raises or negotiate better situations for yourself and spend less because you actually understand your own life values a bit more. There's all these unseen, invisible effects and consequences of pursuing completely non-monetary related hobbies that actually have a very financial correlation in my mind. And that's just because I've taken a step back from being really in the weeds of my budget in the last few years and really understood the power of having a good life and a good feeling of purpose and how that actually correlates to the numbers on your budget. And it really has that big effect on it. Since I left corporate, I've been trying to learn Spanish, and I've spent a lot of money trying to learn Spanish, and not a lot in terms of, oh, it's expensive to learn a language, just a lot in comparison to what I would think I would spend on a hobby. I'm paying for lessons on italki, I'm paying for various apps. When I go to Argentina, I'm going to go to a 2-week intensive course, which I would not even think to pay money for if I wasn't actively learning. And I had the same mindset as you before. I was kind of like, what's the point? Why should I learn Spanish? It's not even a language in my culture. Shouldn't I learn a language in my culture? There are things I should probably learn. But for me, I'm thinking it helps me actually understand the principle of consistency, discipline, because you have to be disciplined when you're learning a language. It's teaching me the power of delayed gratification a lot, because you will never feel as dumb as you feel when you're learning a language, because you literally cannot talk.
You're a fetus again.
Yeah, you literally cannot talk. You want to talk. There's been so many times when I had my lessons with my tutors where it's just like huge blocks of silence. It's quite funny because I'm like, just give me a second. I know it. But yeah, I really think there's so many correlations between the skills that hobbies give you, no matter what the hobby is.
That's so true. And it's transferable skills as well. And I think aside from the financial benefits and things like that in general, I feel like hobbies are a really good starting point for people who just don't know what to do in life as well.
You're right.
When you think about, oh, I want to find my purpose, what do I do in life, or who should I be? People that just literally are starting from scratch and don't know what path to go down. I feel like that experimental stage where you're just figuring out what you actually like and don't like, the best place to start is hobbies, because then you're actually getting to understand what you actually enjoy and what you feel fulfilled by, and you can build it up from there. And then even though our point is not to then monetize those things, but it then opens doors to you figuring out, okay, if I did this as a job, or if I potentially could make money from that in some way, would that still be fulfilling for me? And is that a direction I want to go in? Or not even if you want to monetize that specific hobby, but if that's an industry that you then want to look into further, then that is also a good starting point. So I think if you are someone that doesn't yet have a career, or you just don't know what path you want to go down, starting with hobbies is probably the best way that you can then just start that journey and actually figure out what is for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, even to take this on a slight tangent, for people who are a little bit multi-passionate, or have you ever done the 16 personality test? Because I'm an INFJ. What are you again?
Oh, it took a very long time ago. I was I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if you were also an INFJ, but
I don't think I was that. No, I think I had an S in there.
an S.
What did I have? Oh, I honestly don't know. I think I'm going to have to take it again soon, because
Yeah, you will.
the length of time it's been since I last took it, I might be something completely different by now.
The INFJs, I know in particular, we thrive in multidisciplinary environments. We need a lot of things going on, basically, to feel good about life. And I know, like Farah said, we're not saying in this episode that you have to monetize everything. The whole point is actually opposite to that. But like Farah said, hobbies are a great way to understand how you could earn money if that's something you're not sure of already. But I think for the nuanced situation that you are multi-passionate, potentially INFJ, I think having hobbies that you can monetize a little bit of, but having multiple things going on, is also a really nice way to just build a very fulfilling life. Because if a hobby can give you the sense of purpose and the skill building and all the non-monetary things, but you can also monetize a small slice of it, for me, that is the definition of ideal balance of monetization versus fun. I really struggle with life when I have to focus on one thing for 80% of my time. I find that very frustrating. So for me, having multiple things going on, first of all, great. I feel good, I feel varied. But if I also have multiple ways of earning, I feel even better about my financial life and my overall, ability to make a life for myself as well. So even though I'm saying don't monetize everything, I do think hobbies is that great gateway to actually building maybe a multidisciplinary way of earning, which is actually just as fulfilling as having multiple hobbies without being overwhelming. There's no pressure to monetize everything, but for some people it really helps to have loads of little things going on that add up to one big pie. And that's definitely how I would love to build my life eventually.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I think that's why I struggled in 9 to 5 work, is because like they did say, oh, your days vary, you do a bit of different things, but you just really don't. In the same way when you own your own business or you're doing work outside. And this is why I love side hustles in general, is because you actively get to do different hustles like on the side, and you don't have to have them all in the same industry. Some people make cakes and then they do makeup. It's just very varied, and you don't have to do them full time.
I hope that inspired you to either get some hobbies or try and just take the focus off of, I guess, earning money in terms of putting too much pressure on yourself to do that, given everything else that's going on for us girlies just trying to survive in our 20s and 30s. So if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to follow us there and give us a little rating. And if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will catch you in next week's episode. Bye.